Okay, today we're going to start on Tzaddik Amud Beis 95b. Towards the bottom, let's see, it's 5, 10, maybe about 13 lines, 14 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabashi. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the schus of our learning, have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Also, we're learning in the memory of Hava Golda Bas, Baruch Binyamin, and also my father. Naftali, someone asked me when Rabbi Schoen's shir, when and where Rabbi Schoen's shir on Sunday is.
The answer is it's in person and on Zoom at 10 o'clock.
I love this.
And if someone wants to go in person, and it's in the shul he used to be in, he's still there.
Oh, next to the pizza shop, on top of the pizza shop. That place
It's on top of something on that street. I didn't notice.
Okay, what time? What, it's at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, so we're starting. Amar Ravashi. Ki avinon bei Rav Kana. Ravashi says when he was in the house of Rav Kana, in the yeshiva of Rav Kana, Rav Kana was, according to some of the historians, there were actually 6 Rav Kanas, but maybe there's less than that. Whatever the case is, this is a later Rav Kana that Ravashi considered his teacher. A lot of times Ravashi discusses with Rav Kana things.
There's other
Rav Kanas. Yeah, Rav Kanas that's a student of Rav, which is clearly not the same one, because that would be 200 years apart or more. Okay, so Rashi says, "Was by Rav Kana, Iboilon." We had a question. Rav Shimon, we had different opinions over here. What Rav Shimon's opinion was. Rav Shimon basically says that you. Is this Rav Shimon or Rav Yehuda? Rav Shimon, right? So Shimon basically says that the thief or the robber acquires the item that he stole, and he only pays what its value was at the time of the theft. That means all the other income that comes from it afterwards belongs to the robber, and he keeps it. Now, there was a machlekes between Rav Zvid and Rav Papa if he keeps everything, or if he just keeps a portion of it, as if he is a worker together with the owner. The worker gets a half, a quarter, or a third. So
it's strange because usually the value that you get from the fruits of something, if it's I think we see in damages that someone has to pay because someone is no longer able to gain income or work. So otherwise, the victim would be able to make income when otherwise it was stolen.
Right. I hear. Yeah, that's one thing that's going to come out from this, is that the robber or the thief only pays the actual item. He doesn't pay the loss of income that comes along. Now, one point over here is that according to this view, he does pay some of the income. He gives he pays when is he giving the item back? If he gives the item back, that's what we're saying here. If he gives the item back to the owner, so the owner has to give him but some certain improvements that were done possibly in the item itself. An animal that got fatter, or some improvements. So what does he give him? Does he give him kimisal kinalei? When the owner has to give him the improvements that were done to this item, does he just give him money on the side? So because you made it worth an extra 10 things, so that you get $5, half or a third or a quarter. Or maybe he actually takes some of the flesh itself because he owns part of, let's say he owns the improvement of the animal. When they slaughter the animal, he gets some of the meat because he improved it.
I remember that once you discussed about like if a squatter took over the house,
Right.
then the squatter maybe had to pay the owner like the rental of the
Right.
property.
Right.
Is this similar to
That's going to come up a little bit later, but that was, yeah, it's similar to it, but we're saying he doesn't have to pay. By both of them, he doesn't have to pay for his usage. That's going to come up later. So that's his Rav Ashi's question. How does the thief get paid? He answered it from the following. Dam Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says in the name of Shmuel, there's three people that we evaluate what the improvements are, but we don't give them a portion of the actual item or the real estate or whatever it is. We only give them money on the side. Let's say, for example, there's two brothers that are inheriting a property, and they improve the property. So they improve the property, let's say, by 12 coins. It's worth now 12 coins more. This is Rashi's example. You have to view it like this. If the property would be worth 12 coins, all right. So let's say the size of the property is 12 something, a measurement of 12. What happened is the Bechor would get 8 of them, because what you do is you divide it by 3. The Bechor, the firstborn, gets 2 portions, he gets a double portion. Another brother gets 1, so he gets 4. So it's divided 4 and 8. Only thing is that wasn't the original inheritance. The original inheritance would be divided like that. But now we have improvements that were done to it. Now the improvements that were done after the father passed away, that they divide equally. So when the Bechor takes 8, he really owes his brother two of those, because the improvements he's supposed to divide by in half. He's supposed to be 6 and 6. The original property, he gets a double portion, but the improvement is he only gets a regular portion. They divide it in half. So now instead of giving his brother a little bit extra of the property, what he does is he just pays his brother the money of the improvements, and he keeps the double portion of property. So what we're saying in the name of Shmuel is that there are certain times, there's 3 times when you don't give property, you only give money. This is one of them.
So would be 6 and 6 because they go half after the improvements?
Yeah, so 1 second. We're looking at the size of the property. Brother gets double portion, 8 and 4. But all of that property was improved.
That made it cost 12? Before originally cost less?
Right now, all of the property is improved. Okay. Now that improvement has a value of 12. Now, but it's over across the whole property. Maybe we should say that because really the Bechor only gets 6 of that, we should cut down on his property that he's taking and let the brother also get some of the property, a little extra property. We say no. The older brother gets actually the original 2 portions, and he pays his brother the money because he's taking extra improvements. Not that the younger brother, gets the extra part of the property. Same thing applies. But if someone owed money and then he sold the property, so the balchoiv, the creditor, comes and takes the property away from the purchaser. If there were improvements that were done, so he has to give those improvements back to the purchaser. So those improvements, it's not that he leaves him some of the property. He doesn't leave him some of the property. He gives him back some of the value of what those improvements were. And same thing as balchev li'asayim. Same thing is someone is collecting property from orphans, you can only collect the property that was there at the time of because the father owed money, so you're taking the property. But let's say there were improvements that were done after the father passed away. So for that, he pays back the orphans just in money, but not by leaving them some of the property. Well, what the Gemara is now saying here is that the same thing would apply to the thief, that if the thief took an item and improved it, so when the owner takes the item back, he gives the thief not some of the item, but only money on the side of what the value was of those improvements. That's what we're understanding now. Taisus points out, what about, but you said there's only 3 things. He said, okay, we left out some. We're not looking at the number.
I'm kind of surprised. Yes, you can take back the stolen in the first place. I mean, this is just Rav Shimon's opinion.
Yeah. But
I
it
don't know.
have to
I'm
do
curious
with,
to see how it plays out.
okay. It may have to do with it's a kanas hashavim, that we want someone to return the item. We want to make it easier on him and all of that. So, he put in investments, maybe. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina asked Ravashi, Miyamar Shmuel, did Shmuel really say that when someone confiscates property, creditor confiscates property, and he has to pay back the improvements, did Shmuel really say that he has to actually pay back to the purchaser the improvements of the property? Shmuel said that the creditor can actually confiscate the property and it take even the improvements that the purchaser had put into it. What do you mean he has to pay back? Amarlei. So Ravashi responded to Ravina, says like Kasha, you're not asking a question, it's different cases. It depends on what the improvements were. Are they growths that are ready to harvest? Ready to harvest, it's considered a separate item that he has to return. But if it's still growing, it's still part of the property. Magil means that it's ready to be carried away, ready to be hauled away. So then, if it's ready to be hauled away, then that has to be returned to the purchaser, because those are the things that he grew and they're finished. But if it's still attached to the ground and it's still in the middle of growing, so that the creditor can confiscate. Amalei, Ravina says to Ravashi, that's not the case, because we saw every day Shmuel would confiscate property for creditors, and he would even take the produce that was ready to be harvested. Amalei, Ravashi responded, it depends how much the person owed. If the person owed the amount together with the produce, so then that's what he would confiscate. If he didn't owe that amount, then that's what he would return. Okay.
So this is a tough situation because there are 2 innocent parties here. There's the original owner had something stolen. Then there's the thief who's not innocent, and then there's the purchaser who assume he bought it in good faith.
Right.
So it's possible that the original owner could say, "This really is only worth it to me what it was when it was stolen. I wasn't going to improve it. I wasn't going to plow the back 40. You did that. I wouldn't have." So I guess he could say, "No, it's not worth it to me. Keep it." I mean, it's putting everybody in a difficult situation. I'm trying to figure out. You have 2 innocent people. You're trying to figure out what's right.
Let's take the case of the loan. All right. So the debtor sold the property.
Mm-hmm.
The creditor shows up at the purchaser and confiscates the property. The property has been improved. So what we're holding right now is that the creditor confiscates the entire property. He doesn't leave the debtor with any of the property. Takes everything, and then he pays him money for the value of the improvements that he did.
So he now could become a debtor to the purchase of the lokea.
Yeah, because he's taking more than what he was originally allotted on the property. This guy improved it. But now the Gemara asks the question. He says, "Amalei, there is a discussion in the Gemara and Ksubas regarding if the if the purchaser can get rid of the creditor by saying, I'm already on the property, don't bother me. I went through the whole thing, the closing costs and all of that. Let me just give you the money that he owes, and then I'll have to go get the money back from the creditor. And so instead of you confiscating the property that I really want, let me just pay you off. So if he can pay him off, then we have a question over here, because why are we saying that he doesn't get the property, that the purchaser doesn't keep any of the property? The creditor takes the entire property and gives him money. What do you mean? The purchaser could pay off the creditor and keep everything. And now you're telling me that he confiscates it and he can't, and he doesn't give him any of the property, he just pays him in money. It's really the opposite. The purchaser can give him money. It says, Hanicha works out well. If you say that the purchaser cannot get rid of the creditor by giving him money, then we understand what's going on over here. The creditor has first rights to the property, he takes the property. But according to that other opinion that says that if the purchaser wants to get rid of the creditor and keep the property and he can just pay him off, so then Leimalei, he should say to him, if I had the money, the cash, I would have gotten rid of you from the whole property. Now at least leave me a sliver of the property according to my improvements. Sliver of the property according to my improvement. Give me a little piece. Why are we saying that the creditor takes all the property and then just gives him money, and the guy can't keep any of the property? He could really keep all the property if he wanted. For sure, he can keep that sliver of property. Amalei. So Rav Ashi responds to that. We're dealing with a special case. It's a different case. Talking about where the debtor told the creditor, told the lender, he said that this property, he said, this is the property that you're going to take from. It's like a mortgage on a house where if you're borrowing money and you're putting the lien directly onto that house. If there's any other issues, they only collect from that house. They don't go to right? Is that correct? There's only that house. That's it. But that's like the apaitike, that this is what you're going to collect from. You're going to collect just from this. So therefore, because this was a special case where he set it up that this is what he's going to collect from, then the person can't pay him off with money. It's even according to that opinion that says that the purchaser can pay him off with money, not if he made it an apaitike, not if he said it's a compound word, apaitike, that this is the one, this is what you're going to collect from.
Spanish, it sounds almost identical.
Yeah.
It's hipoteco.
Hipoteco.
With an A.
Yeah.
And this is very nice from the creditor, because today the creditor just comes and takes the property and doesn't give people anything for the improvements. When they foreclose the house, they take it as is. Most of the time, it's more damaged than improved, but
But you really did improve a lot the way you get paid off. According to Rosh.
It was improved.
You get the house, but it's improved. So you get that house.
So maybe there's a difference. We're asking over here today if the see that this is a little different. The mortgage, if someone defaults on his mortgage, they come and they take the house together with all the improvements that the person did. Even though the guy did a new roof and he did an extension and a swimming pool and everything, they just take everything. They take it and they don't pay him back the improvements. And they don't pay him back. What's the difference? Why is that?
America has their own laws. This is much it's better. It's more even. At least by the Torah, if the person put $200,000 into the house, he might get some of it back from the creditor.
I'm just thinking that there may be a difference, because over here He didn't lend him money to buy the property over here, in this case. He lent him money. He says, how do I know you're going to pay me back? He says, well, I have a property that you can collect from.
Similar.
I guess it's the same. It's the same
The house
concept.
would be the collateral.
Right.
On the difference of if a credit card is based on the signature,
What is that?
that they can't, they could sue you, but it's basically like a signature loan. They have like an actual collateral to it.
Oh.
They could take it to court and make it
Uh-huh.
pay and all these things.
Uh-huh.
But you could, the bankruptcy, you got a way to pay.
Uh-huh. So if someone defaults on their credit card, there's nothing they can do. They just keep just getting calls and mail, and that's it.
Calls, and then they'll sell the loan, and like if it's something big, they might try to take the person to court.
Uh-huh. But then in the court, they'll take his property, won't they?
No, they won't touch his house, but maybe they'll put him like on a payment plan. Oh, you have to pay this person $20 a month.
Okay.
And the rest is
I'm a Rava. Rava says, Gosal v'shpiach ha'macher. Let's say someone stole, made improvements, and then he sold it. Gosal v'shpiach v'hirish. He's trying to improve the world over here. These people aren't fixing up their houses and stuff. No, it's probably metaltalin. It's probably personality. He makes improvements, and then he bequeaths it because he passed away or something. Basically the same way that if the original owner would come and take it away, he would have to give to the thief the improvements that he put in. Now he has to give that to the purchaser as well. Yeah. Rava has a question. Let's say the purchaser is the one that made the improvement. So his question is like this: that do we say that we wanted to help out the thief to do tshuva, so therefore we give him back the improvements? But maybe the lekeach, we don't have to do this. So Basa the boy had a pashti, but after he asked the question, he answered, Mamach Rishon Lasheni calls the other. 1 second. When someone sells a property, he sells him all the rights that he had to it as now given over. So just like if the original thief would have improved it, he would have gained those improvements from the original owner. So too, the purchaser, when he makes improvements, he gains those because the rights to the improvements are being sold from the thief to the purchaser, even though there were no improvements yet. But the rights to the improvements were being sold. So anything that I would have had rights to, you now have those rights to.
These improvements won't like change the status of the item or this thief.
No, it just goes up in price. Boy, Rav has a question. Let's say there was a thief. The thief was a guy, a non-Jew, idolater. Do we say that he gets the improvement? So what are we making? Corrections, improvement. We're setting up a system here for non-Jews to be able to do tshuva. Is that what we're doing? So that they should want to repent and do all of this. We're giving them the improvements. No, he says no. That wasn't the question. The question was going to Zabna li Yisrael. He sold it to a Jew. So safe. 1 second. The only reason why the purchaser gets those rights is because he got it from the thief. The thief sold it to him. He gets the rights that come along with it. But here, the thief was the non-Jew. No, it's necessary to ask this question. Can the Gazal Yisrael v'zavnan alei v'shpicha kechavim v'hada kechavim v'zavnan li Yisrael mai? The Jew stole it. Then he sells it to the non-Jew. The non-Jew improves it. The non-Jew sells it back. Sells it to a Jew. What's the halacha? Mi amrinan kivin the mikar Yisrael v'hada Yisrael. Since it started with the Jew and then it ended up with the Jew, Abdi Rabbanan Takanta. So there was a institution that was made that the improvements should end up over there. Or do we say that maybe they say because in the middle there was a non-Jew, there's no institution that they should be able to get the improvements. So we leave this as a question. Amar of Papa. Papa says, Haiman the Guzzle Dikla Michavre. Someone stole a palm tree. I think what's going on over here is he wants it for the wood. It was a palm tree for the wood. That's what it seems like. The katle means killed, but here means chopped down. Afagav the shadi me'ara la'ara, even though he moved it from the original property to his property, la'ara day, Laikani, he doesn't acquire it. My time, what's the reason? Talking about the thief doesn't acquire it. It's still considered in the original owner's property. My time, originally it was called a palm tree, and it's still called a palm tree. So what we're saying over here is that the name change is very significant, but the Achrayim point out that an action doesn't really need a name change. But over here we're talking about that the action is not so significant. It was probably already like ready for firewood back then, so it wasn't. So that's why now that he cut it and he moved it over to his property, it's still a palm tree. Let's go further. Diklavavid goofy. Let's say it was a palm tree and he cut it into to chunks, firewood, logs. Logs. That's a better word. I know the Hebrew word there. Logs. I wrote chatiches. Pieces. Probably. That's what it seems like. I mean, that's my imagination on this Gemara. Maybe there's a note there that explains. But if he makes it into logs, also like Kani, it's called logs of a palm tree. So he didn't really, even though it's called logs now, he added a name, but it's still just a modifier. Guvi vavdinu kashuri. Let's say he turned it into beams. He took those logs, made it into like plywood or something. So Kani, then he already acquires it. Kshuri Rabri Babdina Kshuri Zutri. Let's say he stole large pieces of large beams and he made them smaller. So like honey, that didn't make the name change that's necessary. Abdinu Kitsusaisa, but if he made them into boards, then Kani. Because now we already changed it.
Have we just switched topics here?
Yeah, we just switched topics.
Okay, so what we're really talking about is whether if you change it so that it has a new name, then that's a shinui.
Right.
So that's what's here, right?
If there was a very significant change, then you wouldn't even need the name change.
Okay.
But over here, the change is not significant enough. So therefore, the name, together with the name change, that's what's going to make it significant.
Even if cutting it down is a lot of work. It's a big old cedar tree. It's a cut down cedar tree. It doesn't have a name change, but it took them 2 days to cut down this tree. It's still not.
That's what it seems. Yeah. Or maybe not. Maybe this was a palm tree. Just got one chainsaw.
The hard thing is you're changing something from karka to metaltalman.
Right. That first case is a little bit difficult. Taisus points out, he says, let's say you took an animal and you shechted it. So then he said that he would acquire because that's a more recognizable of a change than cutting down a tree.
Yeah, well, an animal is always metaltalman.
Right.
I think. Well, it's not karka, so it has to be.
Yeah, I see the picture over there.
What's this picture of?
There's a picture of me cutting down palm branches by Dr. Stein's house. And he put up the book, which I see a part of it, but it's on Thursday, the rabbi cut palms by Harry. What was the name? On Thursday, the rabbi came late. What was the name of that? Remember that book?
Does it make a difference that he won't be able to return the palm? If it was alive, it was connected.
Yeah, that's what it seems. But for some reason, the Gemara ignores that. What is it? Is anything in the notes there?
Just like the beams. The beam, like if it's a long beam and he chops it up into small pieces, it could lose its value. The large beam is harder to come by than the little piece. think it's similar to like the shechting of the animal. You kill the animal.
There's only here where the material of the tree itself is not physically altered that a change of name is necessary to effect acquisition. See, the material of the tree itself is not altered.
And the example of the beams, it is. It's chopped into small pieces.
But that's because of the name change. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Where are we holding? Amarava, Haiman the Gasa Luliva. Someone stole a lulav, Abdino Hutzi, and he turned it into Hutzi is like wicker, loose leaves. Loose leaves. Oh, is that what they get the word loose leaf? Because the pages is called a leaf. It's called a leaf, right? Turned over a new leaf. Yeah. So Kani, he acquires it. Mikar Luliv, Mikribash Hutzi. Originally it was called a lulav, now it's called Hutzi. It's called loose leaves. Hutzi Vabdino Chufya. Chufya means a broom. He turned it into a broom. Kani Mikar Hutzi Vatzi Chufya. Now he turned it into a broom. Chufya Vabdi Shoshuri. Let's say he took the broom, he made it into a rope. Like Kani. Somehow, I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he's taking the pieces that are coming off the broom and tying them together. My time because you can just untie them and it would come back to being the broom. Boy Rava has a question. Let's say that he has a lulav in the middle leaf of the lulav, which is very significant in the lulav being kosher. Let's say that got split. The middle leaf got split. So it goes on. Well, Tashma, come and let hear what the solution is to this. It said in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi that if the middle leaf is removed, then the lulav is puzzle. So over here also, that must be a significant change that you should acquire it. My love, the same thing should apply to if it got split. It says lai nitlashani the chasala. No, he says it's only if it was removed where that's going to be puzzle, but not if it was just split. If removed it, then it's missing. Ikadamri, those that say Tashima, come and listen. Exactly the opposite. That even if it's split, it's as if it's been removed and it's going to be puzzle. You see from here that if the lulav gets split, then the person acquires it. Amar of Papa, we're going to see soon with this significance of all this acquisition. Let's say someone stole dirt from his friend, probably like clay, and he turned it into a brick. Yeah, like honey. He doesn't acquire it. My time, because to make a brick back into dirt, that you can do, you just grind it up. You just take a hammer, you smash it into dirt. But let's say it was a brick and then he turned it into dirt. So you could say, 1 second, you could make it back into a brick. But no, it says kani. My amrit, what are you going to tell me? You're going to make it back into a brick? Hi, levinta achritiyo. That's a different brick. The dirt is the same dirt, but a brick is going to be a new brick. That's a different story. Very interesting. Let's say someone stole a bar of silver from his friend, Vavid Zuzi, turned it into coins. Like Kani, that's not a significant change. My time, you can make it back into a bar of silver by just melting it down. Zuzi Vavde Nasta, Vavdino Nasta, let's say it's the opposite. Let's say you had coins and you melted it down, you turned it into a bar of silver. Kani, you acquire it. My Amrit, what do you want to say? Hadar Avid Luzuzi, but you can make it into coins again? Panim Chadash is Bolakan, those are different coins. It's a new face. If they're darkened, but you made them new, I guess you polished them, shine them. Like honey, you didn't acquire it. Why? Because you can make it dark again. It's easy to mess it up. Let's say they were new and you made them dark. Then kani, you acquired it. My you can make it new again. Made the other shichmayo, you can still tell that it was one time dark and you had to polish it. Okay. Zeklal, the last piece of the Mishnah, we said that this is the rule. That all robbers pay the value that it was at the time of the theft. The Gemara says, what is it coming to include? You told me in the Mishnah this halacha. Why do you have to give me a rule? It says, it's coming to tell me what Rabbi Loi said. Rabbi Loi is an early Amayra in Eretz Yisrael. Ganav Tlev and Asa Ayel. There's another Rabbi Loi. Yehuda Rabbi Loi, but that's not this. This is an Amayra. Ganav Tlev and Asa Ayel. If someone steals a sheep and it turns into a ram. Now we're talking about that it grew another year and the name changed. Egel v'nasa shar, a calf, and it becomes an ox. Nasa shini b'yada v'kani, that's considered a significant change, and he acquires it. Now, what's the significance of that is now tavach ha'machar shlei taviach shlei meicher, that if he slaughters it or sells it, instead of having to pay 4 or 5 times, he's not selling the item that belonged to the original owner. He's selling his own item.
Right.
He just owes the debt, which is probably a double payment that he has to give, and that's it. Okay. Who gavra? There was a person that guzzled padna the ture mechavre. Listen to this. This is like summarizes a lot of the things that we learned. He stole a pair of oxen from his friend. Azal karav bukarba zarabuzara. He went and he plowed his field, and then he also planted his field. And one of the things they would do in those days is that after they planted, they would plow again. That would cover the seeds that were in the ground. So he basically used the animal twice. So Seifa General Amari, and then he returns it back to the owner. So he stole it and he made use of it, and then he returns it. Also, Rav Nachman, he comes to Rav Nachman. Go and figure out what improvements were made by this stolen ox. Stolen oxen. Rava says, 1 second. The improvements that were done here. The ox was a utensil that helped the plow pull the plow. But you have to take into consideration that there's also the land, the Mother Earth, that caused the seeds to grow. It's not just the plow. There's other things here that come into place. Amar, he said, am I saying that he's going to have to pay everything? Palga kamina. I mean, he's going to pay half. The thief is going to have to pay the improvements back to the what he gained from this stolen ox. Not everything that he gained, but half of what he gained because of using that ox, because that belonged to the other person. The other person did those improvements. Well, his item did those improvements.
So he like rented the item in a sense.
Yeah.
This is a rental fee for the ox.
Yeah.
What about his own operating fee? He had to run the.
That's
ox.
part of the half.
That's the half. But what about the land? How do you pay back the land?
That goes in that half.
How do they split it between the land and the owner?
So you're saying that he should pay the thief.
Just the rental fee.
The thief should have to give to the original owner half of his profits. Half of his profits. Amalei safe gzelahu the kahadra beine. 1 second. Rava says 1 second. That's not the way we discuss a thief. When someone steals something, all he has to do is return it.
Right.
Someone steals a can opener and he uses it. He just gives the can opener back. He doesn't have to pay for the fact that he just used the can opener, right? Or the same as with whatever else he took. Why over here are you making him pay for the improvements that he got from the utensil that was stolen?
Yeah.
The Tanan, we have a Mishnah called Gazlan Misham Kshasa. He only has to pay with the value that it was at the time of when it was stolen. Amalei Layaminalach. Rav Nachman says to Rava, did I not say to you that when I'm sitting in judgment, don't tell me anything that Huna, our friend, says about me. Don't mix me up. don't know why Rava was going to be more closer to Rav Huna or something. He says, "Ano Shvar Malka Achi Bedina. I and Shmuel, we're brothers in judgment. Hayinish Gazalna Atikahu. This is an old robber. Ubeina de Iknase, and I need to give him a fine. I need to put a penalty on him." Oh, yeah, I skipped over King Shah. I know Shvar Malka. I translated Shvar Malka just as Shmuel. Shvar Malka. Shmuel, for some reason, was called Shvar Malka. Maybe it was friendly with him. Does it give an explanation why he was called Shvar Malka? Let me take a look at the note.
It's a good picture.
Shapur was the name of several Persian. Okay, no, that's not going to help me.
It was unshakable.
19.
19?
19.
Shmuel was an expert in monetary law, and Allah therefore accords with him in these matters. He was therefore accorded the title King Shapur, for his monetary rulings were unshakable, as though they had been decreed by King Shapur, the Persian monarch who ruled in his time. Now, let me just see what happened over here. Oh, the Amar Hunan Chaverna. For Huna said, oh, I read it wrong. I read it wrong. I read it wrong. It says, it goes like this. It's supposed to say, I didn't read it right. Late Tamali Midi, don't tell me anything while I'm in judgment. The Amar Huna Chaverna loy, because Huna has said about me that Ano Shvar Malka Chibedina. He said that I and Shvar Malka, so it's Huna, it's Rav Huna that's talking. I thought he was criticizing Rav Huna. No, he was accepting what Rav Huna said. Okay.
So if a guy steals a car, he robs a bank, and I want to get my car, he stole my car. So he has to give me the value of the car, give me my car back. But he made a lot of money by stealing from the bank.
Yeah.
Split that with me?
No. Only if he was a thief that was an old time thief. So then he was experienced thief. So then Rav Nachman may put on him a penalty that he has to split the profits also.
But otherwise, he doesn't. He just
Now your case is a little bit problematic because it's stolen money.
right.
Yeah, over there we're talking about he used the car and went to a business meeting and he did some honest business. Then right.
And wouldn't that make him an accomplice if he gets part of the profits?
Right.
Yeah.
Gosel, let's see. Gosel behema viskin. We have a new Mishnah. Gosel behema viskin. If someone stole an animal and it aged, we quoted this Mishnah before. Basically, it decreased in value. Avadim viskino, or slaves aged. Shalom chasak zela. He has to pay what they were worth at the time of theft. Reb Meir Eimer, Reb Meir says no. By slaves, it's just like property. And by property, you just give it back because it never really changed hands. You just happen. It's just like a squatter. So the same thing as with the slave. It never really changed hands. It's still the original. You just give it back. Say here it is before you. Let's see. Someone stole a coin and it cracked. You're gonna see what it cracked means that it actually it went out of circulation. Here's Virkivo fruits and they went rotten. Yayin v'echmetz wine and it went sour, turned into vinegar. Those cases you have to pay what it was originally. Matbeya, v'nifsal, a coin, and it was nifsal. This sounds more like it went out of circulation. And truma v'nitmes. These are things that you can't actually tell the difference in the item itself. Truma that became tamei, chametz v'avalav, pesach chametz, and Passover passed by, so then it becomes prohibited to eat from it. Behema v'nesavda ba'avera, an animal that a sin was done with it and therefore needs to be killed, but you can't notice that on the animal. That's that you can't tell. It's not noticeable, so therefore it can't be brought as an offering. Or maybe it has to be taken out to be killed. Maybe it killed a person. So in all those cases, all you have to do is just give the animal back. You don't have to pay for the value which was lost. Amar of Papa, when it says that it aged, doesn't mean that it literally aged. Even if it just got weaker. Gemara asks, but we said that it aged. What we mean is that it got weaker in the way that it doesn't come back, just like old age. Person doesn't get his youth back. So too, it's talking about that it got weaker in a way that it's not coming back. Amalei Markshisha Breder of Chisda Ravashi. The elder son of Rav Chisda, some say that it's the younger son of Rav Chisda, is called the elder because he was born when Rav Chisda was elder. So said to Ravashi, Hachi kam mishmei Rabbi Yochanan, was said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Ganav Tlev Anasa Ayel, if someone steals a sheep and turns into a ram, Egel Manasa Shar, a calf turns into an ox, Nasa Shinim Biyad V'Kani. It's like it's changed in his hands and he acquires it. If he then slaughters it or sells it, it's his own item. He doesn't have to pay the 4 or 5 times. Amarlei, Ravashi says to Mark Shisha, Lava Minalach, did I not tell you? Don't switch around the names of the people that said things. That wasn't Rabbi Yochanan. That was Rabbi Loi that said that. You have to be careful in whose name you say it.
Could you please summarize what the Gemara just said?
Yeah. That a change in the item makes the person acquire it. And that change could be, even if it just aged. It's a significant change. Now, I think what we're going to need to do here is compare this to what happened before. We needed a name change. Here, we're not needing a name change. I guess here, the change is so significant in the material of the item itself. So the animal gets older, the slave gets older. That's a significant change where it can't function the same way. Before we're
like, oh my God,
before we're dealing with wood, it was still wood. It just happened to be chopped up, but it was still wood. So that we needed it only when it was a name change for that make a difference.
Did I just hear Yitzi?
Yeah, Yitzi's yeah.
Yitzi, could you please read your messages? Thank you.
Significant that he acquires without, like,
Yeah.
the owner